Hi guys. So I wanted to come live and do a video for you, but maybe I don't need to do that. Yeah. So I wanted to do another video just to, I think, to kind of give you reasons why you should be a part of the conscious coaching experience. If you're a woman who is trying to create more for themselves, develop their lives and who they are, and change some of the things that they don't that no longer serves them, that you no longer want to do anymore. So I want to come on with a story about my personal experience, and it's a little vulnerable, it's a little scary, but I think you guys need to hear it. I think you guys need it. So I'm gonna do a story time about a time that I was in grad school. So when I first, it's been, I want to say it's been 6 years since I graduated from grad school, but it was not an easy process. It was not an easy experience, but it was something that I definitely set a goal for myself in accomplishing. And this is the story about that experience and how it's made me the woman that I am today. So 6 years ago, I got into grad school. I was but I didn't get into grad school under a full acceptance. I was given a conditional acceptance under the circumstances that if I get a specific GPA, that I would then be accepted into my graduate program full time. So the conditions were I needed to meet a 3.8 GPA by the end of my first year in order to be considered accepted and a full-time student, as in a full-time grad student accepted into the program that I was in. So I'm like, okay. So I moved in faith. I moved in faith with this conditional term because I believed that I would and could meet it. So I told myself, okay, we're going to just do two grad courses a semester for the first year so that I'm not putting too much on my plate, and that I can really focus in on maintaining or surpassing the GPA that they required me to achieve in order to be a full-time, fully accepted grad student. So I move to Miami, Florida. I start my graduate program. Things are going great. Now, trust me, things weren't going great. Things were hard. I didn't expect this program to be as hardcore as it was. It was a lot of reading. It was a lot of writing. It was a lot of critical, analytical performance that I wasn't used to. My mind was not used to it. My body was not used to it. And definitely my behavior as the person I was not used to it. And it took, before I continue, it took me 7 years to get into the program that I got into. Not just the program I got into, but it took me 7 years to get accepted into a grad school program. And that's not because I wasn't smart or I didn't know what I was doing. It was basically because life took on its own agenda. And for 7 years, I was trying to get into grad school prior to the 6 years that I just graduated from grad school. So this whole entire story spans over about a 14-year period to the woman that I am today. So going back to the story. So it took me 7 years to get into grad school, finally get into grad school, but now I'm only accepted under a terminal condition. So I have to meet a specific requirement of having a GPA of 3.8 or better by the time I complete my first full year of grad school. So I moved to Miami, Florida. I'm gonna meet what the condition is, and I'm gonna be accepted as a full-time grad student. So I moved to Miami, Florida. I start grad school. Things are hard. I'm not used to the work. I'm not used to the methods. I'm not used to the way of thinking. And because of that, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I put so much pressure on myself that I caused a really interesting situation in my body. And the situation took place in my vision. So after going through the first semester of grad school, after finals came around, completed finals, I was stressed as fuck, and I was tired. I was just like zapped of all of my mental faculties from one semester of grad school. Mind you, at that time, I was just focused on trying to be the best, at what I was doing, trying to fully be present and good at what I was there to do, and maintain and excel a 3.8 GPA, which was what I needed to continue and to receive my master's degree. So I feel like I'm getting off track, but basically, so I go through finals. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm done with finals. So I go back to my dorm room, or that whatever day that was. It was the last day of my finals. I go to my dorm room and I fall asleep. I fall asleep for maybe like, I don't know, 9-10 hours or something. It felt like that, at least. It was probably just like 6 or 7, I don't know, or maybe 4, but it felt like a really long, like I took the most deepest, longest sleep of my life. So I wake up and I can't, so I wake up and I open my laptop to like just relax and watch some videos, and I noticed that I can't, like, the lines that I'm seeing on the computer, they're bending. So wherever there's a line, on my laptop, on like a website, the line was either bending, like curved, or it was wiggling. Something like that. And so I'm like, that's weird. Like, my vision's not supposed to be bending lines that are like very like permanent and just not movable. Like, that's not supposed to be happening. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to rest a little longer. So I just go back to sleep. But I wake up the next morning and my eye is still doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, it just got worse, basically. My visions just did not look normal at that point. And it's so funny, I'm laughing or smiling today because I'm out of it, but at that moment it was so devastating and scary, and I just didn't know what the future held for me. And mind you, this is my first semester of grad school, and I have another semester to go before I can be even fully considered a full-time accepted student. So it's the next day. I can't see very well out of my right eye, and I don't know why. And then on top of it, it's starting to ache, like it's starting to hurt. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. So let me just talk to my family, talk to the people that I felt who know me and could tell me what I should do or what the thing is to do. So I tell my mom, and actually me and my mom aren't very close. We don't have a really strong connection. But for whatever reason, at this moment in my life, we were in a place where we would check in on each other and make sure each other were or was doing okay. And as her daughter, I called her and I told her like what was happening. I'm like, I can't see well. Like, the lines in my vision, they're bending. Like, whenever I look at something, there's a curve to it, or whenever I look at a line, it's bending and I don't know why. And she was like, oh, you need to go to the hospital. That's literally what she said. She said, go to the hospital, go to the emergency room. And I'm like, okay. And at that time, I didn't think much of myself. I didn't think much of anything of it, basically. And so I get on the phone with my brother and I tell him what's going on. And I'm like, like I don't know what's happening, but my vision is blurry and there's things that are happening that shouldn't be happening because that's just not my norm. Like, this isn't the norm of what I am used to from being able to look at things. And he's a doctor, and he's like, I don't know if I already said that. So he's like, yeah, you need to go to the emergency room, go see an eye specialist. And I was like, okay. So I go to the emergency room, I think that evening. Get to the emergency room, and the doctor, or who, he wasn't even a doctor, he was more like a student. He was a student, and he was checking people and maybe writing prescriptions. And I don't remember the name because I don't want to be disrespectful, because I know they're doctors in training, but I forgot the name that you would call a doctor in training. But basically that's what he was. He was like an eye doctor in training. I think a obstetrician. I can't even pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. But anyway, so he looks at my eye and he's like, he takes a look at my right eye and he's like, and he compares it to my left eye. And then he looks at my right eye again, and then he compares it to my left eye again. And then he goes like, yeah, so your right eye is inflamed. And I'm like, okay, so what can I do about it? He was like, well, you're just gonna have to come back into, let 2 weeks, go by, come back in a couple of weeks, and then we can see what happens there. And I'm like, but it's hurting. Like, is there anything I can take for it or something like that? And he's like, just take like ibuprofen or whatever. And he couldn't even tell me like what caused it, what's going on. He just said, or he was just like, just come back in a couple of weeks and we'll see what's happened there then. So I'm like, okay. So I leave and I call my brother, who is a doctor, and I tell him this is what the person that told me, this is what they said. And he's like, okay, you need to go back to the emergency room and you need to request that you speak with the on-call doctor, or that you would like to meet with the doctor that is the resident doctor, basically, for the institute, for the eye institute, or for the eye emergency room. So what he was saying is that basically, like, this is your vision. Obviously, no one's going to care more about your vision and, your health more than you. So you have to basically advocate for yourself and insist that you speak with someone who knows what they're doing and that can take care of you. So I said, okay, I'll go back tomorrow. So I went back to the emergency the next day. And I insisted that I meet with the resident doctor who can let me know what is happening with my eye, what is going on. So they had a more suitable, more knowledgeable doctor meet with me, and he told me what was going on with me. He said that the reason why this was happening, it's called an inclusion. So it's basically when a vessel breaks in your retina, or a vessel breaks inside of your pupil or inside of your retina, and it starts leaking fluid. This fluid can be liquid, like water, or blood. And so basically I had both happening at the same time, which was what was making my vision so blurry and kind of bending the lines. So what I was experiencing was basically, if you look, whenever, say it's a rainy day and you look out of your window and all you see are these rainy spots. So basically, that's kind of how I was seeing from my right eye. I basically had a tear, a permanent tear, like a permanent raindrop in my vision, and which distorted what I was looking at for a few months, more than a few months, almost half a year, basically. Which felt like forever. It felt like forever. It felt like half a year, but yeah, it wasn't really till, okay, well, we'll get to that part. So that's what it looked like. So whenever you look out a window and you see raindrops on the window pane, that's basically what I was seeing for what happened to me. And then I said, so I asked the doctor, I'm like, how did this happen and why? He's like, basically, like, we tend to see this happen in people who are in like high positions, in people who are in corporate America, who are, executives who are going through a lot of stress and are under a lot of pressure with their company or their work or whatever. And then he asked me, he goes like, are you in a, is your program really like intense, or like are you in a really like rigorous program? And I'm like, I am, but it's not like it's Harvard or anything like that. Not to like discredit the grad school that I graduated with, but basically, yes, the work was intense, but it wasn't to the level of like uh, a to the level of like a prestigious college. Even though I will say the program, it is a, a very lucrative program. This program that I was a part of, I was basically doing PhD work in a MA degree status. So I was doing the kind of work that PhD students would do to get their PhD, but I was going to receive my master's degree. So I said, yeah, but it's not to the level of like other schools that would be more intense. So he goes, yeah, so this happens in people who are either under a lot of pressure or put a lot of pressure on themselves to excel, to perform, things of that sort. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't know that that's what I was doing to myself. And he basically told me that there were two options. One, they could drain the fluid that was gathering in my vision. They could drain it out, or they would kind of allow my body to heal itself, because he's mentioned that the eye knows how to heal itself. And my doctor chose to go the latter route, which was to allow myself to heal, to take the time for my eye to go back to its normal way of functioning, existing, or whatever have you. Which I am forever grateful for, because the other option was a very scary and intense solution to solving whatever was happening with me, and it wouldn't have turned out pretty, to be honest with you. So I get it. So I get the information, and then I leave with the knowledge of like, okay, so this was because I put a lot of intense pressure on myself to perform and to be the best, to be perfect at whatever it is that I was achieving, or the work, whatever work it was that I was doing. So now I'm, trying to figure out, okay, I can't really see, and I don't have the best vision already, as you can see with these glasses, but to even have more of an issue with my vision, and I'm in the middle of my first year of grad school, and I have to figure out whether to stay and finish out the year, or do I stop and kind of allow my body to heal, go back to a normal state of existence, and not pursue grad school anymore. And this was the two choices that I was faced with, because I can't see. And if I can't see, I can't really read. And you need your eyes to read in grad school, because basically that's all grad school is reading to the point of no return, and then typing to the point of no return. So this was a very difficult moment in my life. And I literally didn't know what to do. And so I called my big brother up again, and I ask him, and I tell him what's going on, and I ask him, what do you think I should do? And he goes, honestly, Toro, I can't tell you what to do. He's like, you know what is the right choice for you. This is your body. This is what you're going through. You'll have to find the answer for yourself. You'll have to figure it out for yourself, basically, is what he said. And so at this point, I'm just lost. I was lost. I didn't know what was the best decision to make. I've been working so hard to get to this point in my life. As a matter of fact, it took 7 years to get here. I finally get here, and then this happens to my body. I'm unable to read and to perform at the capacity that I'm used to, So I'm literally having to face, do I let go of my dream, or do I push through and hope by some way, by some miracle, by some random act of something, grace, I don't know, that everything works out for me. Because at this point, I still have 2 more classes, another semester to go through, and I get my grades back, and I don't meet the requirement needed to get fully accepted. Because right now I'm under conditional acceptance. So my GPA, I get my grades back from the first semester, and my GPA, it's a 3.2 or 3.4 or something like that, or 3.6, I don't know. But I needed 2 points higher to meet the 3.8 mark in order to not put a ton of stress on myself, not feel oh, I have to really step up my game come second semester. So that didn't happen. So actually I needed to step up my game second semester, but I can't, because I can't see normally. I can't see how I'm used to seeing. So I literally have an emotional breakdown, because I can't see. I didn't meet the grades that I needed to meet, and I have another semester to go, and I'm stuck with 2 choices. It's either I stay and finish what I started, or I quit. I end up quitting grad school and going back to the life that I wasn't excited to live, which was just working an average job every day, 9 to 5, which I wasn't interested in. I didn't want for myself. So during this time, there was a moment where it was like the dark night of the soul for me. I literally had to come to grips with, I literally had to face myself and come to grips with what I was experiencing. So I literally remember sitting on the floor of my dorm and asking myself why grad school meant what it meant for me. Like, why was I here and why was I doing what I was doing? And I told myself it was because there's a specific woman that I want to be in this world. And that's the type of woman who is strong. That's the type of woman who shows up. She shows up in life. She shows up in who she is. She shows up for people. She shows up for herself. I remember asking myself about the kind of wife I wanted to be. And the kind of wife that I want to be is the type who fights for her family, who fights for what she wants for her family, who fights for her marriage, who fights for her livelihood. And knowing that that was the type of woman and the type of wife that I want to be in this world, I had to decide who I'm going to be. Who am I going to be? Am I going to be the type of person who gives up on herself? Or am I going to be the type of person who goes after what she wants, irregardless of what's standing in her way? And at this time, what was standing in my way was my own body. My body literally became my enemy because the very thing I needed, which was my vision to complete this huge achievement, this huge goal that I've always had for myself, was what was literally standing in the way of getting there. And so I told myself that I'm not going to quit, that I'm going to continue into the next semester, and that I'm just going to have to figure out, or I literally made the decision that I'm going to work with what I was dealing with. I was going to work with where I was in that moment. So once I made that decision, so funny, like different elements started playing into that whole experience. So at the time, I had an advisor, and my advisor, I told him what was going on, and he told me that he would help me or connect me to the person who would put my books on audio file, so that I would be able to keep up with the work that my courses required me to accomplish. So that was a bit of breath, a bit of breath, like I could breathe a little bit more. So it wasn't about having to do it all on my own, but there was support there. So things started showing up. Players came into the situation that I was under. So my advisor, like, was able to provide me with, like, support as a disabled student. And my faculty, the faculty for my grad program, they showed up in understanding how much I needed time to accomplish the work that was given to me. And my advisor also, like, he mentioned that I should go to the counseling department because he could see how stressful the situation was for me. Because I think I was crying in his office with what I was dealing with. And he guided me to speak with a therapist at my university. Mind you, I still haven't told you guys, like, what got me to this place. Like, the fact that I wasn't able to see. The fact that, my vision just kind of gave up on me for a moment there. And so how this happened was because I literally remember putting so much pressure and stress on myself mentally and emotionally to get through the first semester, to perform, to accomplish the work that I was doing. I remember having conversations with myself, telling myself, one, that I needed to work hard and I need to step up and I need to make it happen. These are literally the words that were coming out of my mouth. So that was happening, but then there was also this other aspect of me where I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel that I belonged. I didn't feel that I was smart. I didn't feel that I was capable of doing what needed to be done in order to be a grad student and to achieve a master's degree. So these two things were happening in my head and my heart, and I wasn't being kind to myself. I wasn't being loving to myself. I wasn't being supportive. I was putting myself under a lot of stress and under a lot of pressure, and it wasn't nice, to be honest with you. I don't think there's another word that I can come up with other than I wasn't being kind, and I wasn't being loving, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And literally, like, I remember I would go hours without eating because I was trying to either read through an academic book, a textbook. I was either trying to read through a textbook or I was writing a paper. And I felt like I would give myself, okay, once you're done with this book, then you can go eat. Like, then you can go make dinner and eat. So having this sort of mindset and having this sort of behavior is what hurt me in the end. And it didn't allow me to enjoy the process until second semester came around. So second semester comes around, I'm able to get my textbooks on audio. I'm able to have more time to turn in my work, and I have to just learn a new way of doing the work. I have to learn a new way of taking in information and spewing it back out, basically, is what you have to do in grad school. So I had to learn a whole new way of doing that. And seeing that, okay, my vision isn't getting any better, and I was putting myself through so much stress, and I'm now in this place of having to learn a new way to work, to do the work of a grad student, and the GPA isn't where I thought it would be. I'm like, I give up. I can't do this to myself. Mind you, at the time, I also had a friend who I would talk to about what I was going through. And I'll never forget what she told me. She goes, Toro, honestly, there's nothing that you can do about what's going on. The only thing you can do is just pray and then let it go. And then focus on, you know, what you can do. So you can't fix the fact that you're where you're at, like your eye, you can't see from your right eye, but you can let go of that and focus on what it is that you need to do. And so that helped me so much, because that allowed me to just kind of leave the situation in the hands of God and do what I needed to do to move forward and to move on and to support myself, which I hadn't been doing all that time during the first semester. So I started saying, like, okay, well, I need to start eating healthier, or I need to start putting myself first. And so I literally told myself, like, okay, so before I begin work, I need to take care of me. And what does that look like? That looks like making sure that I eat before I start focusing on work. And then I remember needing to de-stress, needing to get away from what I was experiencing, needing to not focus on what I was going through. And that's hard. Like, how you not focus on the very thing that's in front of you? Like, it's my eye. Like, I can't focus on anything other than what's right in front of me. But it was a mind release. I had to release my mind from whatever it is that I was experiencing in order to be able to heal. So how did I do that? So I told myself that I needed to start taking better care of my body, and that I wanted to implement yoga into my daily habits and routine, or into my week, basically. And so at the time I was in grad school, we have this awesome athletes facility. And so they would offer the student body like programs, like exercise programs and workout programs and classes and stuff like that. So I just joined a yoga class, And that started helping me to take my focus off of literally the experience I was going through. So it was exactly what I needed, and I didn't even know. But somehow I was guided to implement yoga into taking care of me. And it helped so much. So what yoga did for me was that it allowed me to let go. It allowed me to release. It allowed me to be present with my body and my spirit and my God all at once. And so as the semester went on, I couldn't put this pressure on myself to perform anymore, because it got me to a place that I hurt myself. So I had to let go of the idea of, okay, you have to do well. You have to make this happen. You have to do X, Y, and Z. So there were moments where I just did the work. I didn't put pressure on the kind of work I was doing. I just made sure that I did the work. So I would read the material, I would type the paper, and I would let it be. So I let go of having to perform. I let go of having to perform. I let go of having to think that I needed to be a specific type of person to get to where I wanted to be. And I just trusted the process. And I didn't put the pressure on myself to get a specific GPA by the end of my second semester. I just allowed myself to experience the experience. And I went through the semester. I completed all of the assignments that needed to be completed. I gave it my best. I didn't put pressure on myself, and I let go of being hard on myself, and I let go of thinking that, oh, this has to be great, or this has to be perfect, or this has to be a specific way. And yeah, so the semester ends, I get my grades. And I remember when I got my grades from the second semester, I was at my friend's place, and I was in Chicago, and I went online to check what my grades were for that semester. And at that point, I just didn't care as much. I didn't hold on to the idea that I had to be a specific person, a specific grade, a specific GPA. I let all of that go. And letting it go gave me so much freedom, because it allowed me to just be. That's it. It allowed me to just be. So I checked my grades, and I received like a 4.0 GPA or a 3.89 GPA. So basically, I got an A and an A minus in the last two classes of that semester. And it was the most incredible feeling that I ever have experienced, because I did it. I I met my goal, which was to be a 3-point GPA, to be standing at a 3-point GPA, and to have finished out the entire year, even though I went through what I went through. So not only did I get that, but then I received a letter accepting me fully into the graduate program that they conditionally had accepted me into. And it was just the best feeling in the world. Mind you, at this point my eye had began to heal, and so this was around May. So this was at the point where my eye just started healing. It had to go through, it had to get worse before it got better. So I had to go through stages of minor to bad to worse to better to healed. That's kind of the process I went through with my vision, as far as like the healing, the physical healing. So I get accepted, and so by the summertime my eye is pretty much back to its normal state. Actually, it wasn't until like the following semester, so like September, my vision was back at its normal state. So I'm now fully accepted as a grad student, going into my second year of grad school, and things are back to normal. And that was my journey. And during that time, I learned so much. And a lot of it was faith. Having the faith to push through the hard times. Having the faith of not knowing if things are going to work out, but having the hope and faith that it would work out for me. And that is what brought about my business as a life coach, is the fact that you have to be willing to have faith in yourself. You have to be willing to have faith in the circumstances, the way things play out, the process of it all. And knowing that as long as you are trying, and as long as you are giving it the best that you have, it may not always work out your way, but it always works out. And it always works out for your good. And going through that allowed me to show up for myself. Going through that allowed me to believe in what I could do. And going through that gave me the confidence to build the business that I have today. To be the conscious coach that sits before you, to offer you value, resources, and support. Yeah. Synchronicities, divine guidance, all of that are into play. Thanks, Jackie. I love you, girl. So I wanted to bring this story to you because it's something that has brought me to where I am now, the person that sits in front of you, who is now a life coach, who has her own business, and who is still working on herself. You guys, like, I am a work in progress, but that doesn't mean that I can't have what I want in that process. And that's what I offer to you as your life coach. You all are a work in progress, but it doesn't mean that you can't work towards what it is that you desire for yourself, because you're just not there yet. And something that I keep telling myself is that Rome wasn't built in a day. Things take time to manifest. And in order for them to manifest, you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to fight for what you want and push through all of the seemingly things that seem like they are a hindrance, things that seem like they are walls or blockages, but in all earnestness and honestness or honesty, they're not. They are just perceptions of what we think is there. They are just limitations that we sometimes set on ourselves. I didn't think that I would be able to come out of it going through that, but I had to let go of the idea that this has to happen, because I think that's what held me back. That's what caused me to get to a place that I literally forced an issue. I literally created my own limitation, my own blockage. It manifested through me physically. And what I want to do for you as your coach is to support you through that and to guide you out of that, so that you guys don't have to go through it if it's not something that you have to experience. So that is why I do what I do, and that is why I created the conscious coaching experience, so that you can have someone to guide you and to walk with you and to show you how to create what it is that you want for yourself. I am Adi Toromajek. I am the owner and founder of the In Her Experience. And I will talk to you again. Thank you for being here.